From Florida's Space Coast, this is Your Career.
Welcome to Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today is Greg Pallone. And you are in for a real treat. He is here to share his experience as a broadcast journalist and give you some insights in case this is a career path that you feel is a fit for you. Greg, thank you for being with us today and taking time out of your crazy, unpredictable schedule.
Yeah, it's really busy. News 13, we're a 24-hour station. Being here in Brevard County, working here now for 8 years, there's a lot that goes on here, a lot that happens from rocket launches to other things. So yeah, we certainly are busy. We could be busy 7 days a week, no doubt, and generally we are. But it's a lot of fun and very rewarding at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, when you're running the space program, you need somebody to carry some extra equipment, just call.
Okay, you got it. We'll have you along, not a problem.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, your career could have taken a lot of different paths, and you chose broadcast journalism.
Yeah.
What really was the attraction?
Well, I kind of stumbled into it in college. At first, you go in there as a freshman and you say, what am I going to do? Well, I was a business major, like a lot of kids. And I knew, though, early on that I always wanted to do something with communications. I wasn't sure what. And I remember back when I was in elementary school, the teacher at the time said, we need someone to do the morning announcements. And so I said, okay, I'm in 5th grade, I'm scared, I can try it. And I did it for that whole year and enjoyed it. You lead the Pledge of Allegiance, you do the announcements. So I think from then on, I kind of knew that I wanted to communicate with my voice in some way. I didn't know if it'd be radio, I didn't know what it would be. I loved sports growing up, so I initially wanted to be a sports broadcaster for my beloved hometown, Atlanta Braves, but that hasn't come to fruition. But I think I got to college and started talking to some people, and they said, why don't you look into the broadcasting program? And I did, and I started taking classes, and just everything went from there, and here we are.
That's perfect. So what was the real deciding factor for you? Was there a particular process? Was there a person that influenced you or helped to steer you in the right direction to determine this is really a good career fit?
I think what was interesting was the school where I went to at the time was Georgia Southern, which is north of Savannah, Georgia, and they did not actually have a broadcast journalism major. They had a broadcast production major, like the gentlemen who are helping us with the program today. So I learned the camera. I learned how to edit. I learned all those things behind the scenes. And one day, toward the end, when I was about to graduate and I had to pick an internship, I had one lined up at CNN. I was saying, well, I'm from Atlanta. I'll go and intern at CNN. And then I kind of thought to myself, and this is not a knock against them, I said I really wanted to actually get some hands-on work. I wanted to do things. And so I talked to my advisor a little bit, and I said, I really don't think I'm ready for this. I want to do something else. He said, well, there's a small cable station here in town, and they do news every night. Why don't you go and intern with them and see what you think? So I did, and I did commercials and everything and that type of thing. And I remember going out just on a fluke one day with the news director of this very small station. There was literally 3 guys in the news department, very small. So you had to do a little bit of everything. I went out with him on a story. It was simply something about a business, and I fell in love. I was like, wow, I get to talk to people, I get to be out and about. And I think everything sort of culminated and joined together right then, and I realized that I want to try this. And 21 years later, I'm still kind of at it.
It sounds like you love it, though.
Yeah, well, it's the people.
Oh, yeah.
It's people. I mean, I use the example a lot of times when you cover stories, no matter what you're doing. If, let's say, there's a tornado and it blows down the steeple of the church, then the church rebuilds, and a year later they have a dedication for the steeple to put it back up. Well, is it about the steeple, or is it about the people who made that happen? It's about the people, and news is about people. And without telling their stories and telling it through their eyes, you don't have a story. So that's what I like about it, and that's why I like being out and about, and especially here in this community, because there's so many stories to tell. You will never lack for those type of things.
And that is very true, isn't it? One could never think about that when you just look from afar at Brevard. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Choosing a college or university, you were very fortunate. You were at the school, you got some great advisors that gave you good direction. Based on your experience, what are some things that a young person who's truly trying to choose a college or a university of some sort, what are some things that they should really consider?
Well, I had an opportunity to go to the really large schools. I mean, my grades were not wasn't a 4.0 student, but I was good enough to get into, say the University of Georgia or maybe Auburn over in Alabama based on where I lived. But I wanted to choose a school that was a little bit smaller, and I wanted to choose, I admit this, my parents know, I've told them back in the day, that was kind of far enough away, but not too close, where they couldn't just pop by. So, and I know that sounds cold, but it's true. And when you're a kid, you want to get away. But it was still close enough to go home and grab some real food. But I chose the school because it was a small at the time, and it's grown significantly since, because it kind of felt like a small town, a small town feel, and you wanted that, and kind of like Cheers, where everyone knows your name.
Right.
And you get to know people that way instead of just being a number. Again, not knocking the large universities at all.
Right. So maybe the kinds of things that you're, for people to consider then would be looking at your own personality, looking at your own needs, being close enough to home for some people, maybe being further away
and again, that is an individual decision. Some folks want to travel across the country, or around the world. They want to go and study abroad. I think for me, I still was in the sort of the home mode. And going to the school where I did, which is 3 hours away, was ideal, because you could go home for the weekend and then come back. That was good for me, and it worked for me. It may not work for everyone, but it did for me in that situation.
But I think that's a great point to raise, that a person has to really look at what kind of connection, what kind of support, and how close do you need that support. What are the other things? Are you looking for more of an experience? What is it about the campus and the curriculum and the community that the school or university is actually in as well?
I think that's an important point, is that when you go and visit the school, either with a family member, check out the campus, check out the town it's in, because you might find that that's not for you. You may like the campus but not like the area. What do you like to do? Do you like outdoor stuff? Do you like this and that? Think about those things. So, I mean, I think that just when you're choosing a school, in a way, you're almost choosing a job, because you're going to be there hopefully for 4 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, hopefully just 4 years.
Right.
That's a different subject.
Some people might be on the extended plan, but that's true.
That's right. Well, that's a great point, and some really good important things for students to think about. So just beyond the curriculum, because that's the other thing that I know that I get the kids to try to look at is, what's it going to cost you, and is it going to give you something more than another, right? A degree from Purdue University versus a degree from an unknown university. Depending on the degree and what one wants to do with it, could make a difference as well.
Do your homework on those schools, because if you want to major in broadcast journalism, there are top schools in the country where you want to go. They geographically might not fit where you live, but if you want to actually do that and go to the top, like University of Missouri, University of Florida, Florida State, those type, but you might live in Kansas or something, and it might not be close. But if you need to look at that, but at the same time, think about it that you're going to be there for a while. And if you're not happy being that far from home, you may not be able to focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And having a degree, especially nowadays, and when I go and talk to kids at Career Day, I said you have to have a college degree. That's mandatory nowadays.
Absolutely.
Not back, where, and that doesn't mean you don't work hard from there, but you need to get your degree. You need to get that from a college, and work hard at that, and get as much experience as you can while you're in college, and make it worth your time.
And that's exactly where I want to segue, because when I'm thinking about a college student, coming out with a degree, what does the employer really look for? I mean, is volunteer experience going to be important? Paid experience, internships? What are they really looking for from those kids, just based on your own experience?
Well, the ironic thing about the broadcast journalism industry is, and that's again what I ask a lot of the younger kids. I say, why do you want to do this? And if I get the answer to be on TV, then I generally spin them around and say, no, that's not what it needs to be about. That is a byproduct of what we do. Right. It does have its advantages, but when you get the degree, you need to prove to a potential employer that you're willing to work for it and start at the bottom. There are a lot of kids who think they're going to start in a top 10 market. They're going to go to New York and all of a sudden become the anchor. Well, why don't you look at those folks who have those positions, how long they've been there. They started at the bottom and worked their way up. They're in those spots because those are the cream of the crop spots. Right. You're not going to start in New York. You're not going to start in LA. You're not going to start in Chicago. You need to go to a small town, make your mistakes in front of a small audience, learn your craft, absorb what you can, work a lot of hours, get low pay, and work your way up. Because once it's said and done, you're gunning for that spot in New York or LA. No one can say, well, you don't have the experience. You didn't try.
Yeah.
And that's my best advice.
That's great.
Because you might get that great job right out of college, but you might not be ready. You don't want to make your mistakes in front of a huge audience.
Right.
That's not a very good career move. Make them at the bottom and live in the small town, and that's where you get to know people and make connections and build your way up from there.
Right, right. I think that's great wisdom and great advice for a number of professions. That would be advice that I would give to people to start. You know, you want to be low profile. Right. Right. Just behind the scenes.
Well, soak it up and decide what you want to do. You may not have an idea. You may say, well, I want to do sports, but I'm not sure if I want to do. You know, do I want to sit at the desk and read the highlights or whatever, or do I want to actually be out and about? Or if you want to do weather, you know, where do I need to go to get my meteorology degree? Do I want to do it online? There's opportunities there. Do I want to, you know, be out on the streets first and then figure out if I want to be out there in dangerous situations sometimes, or in the weather, when the hurricane comes, they send you out. You know, you need to be ready for that stuff. If you don't like to get soaking wet, you might not want to do it. So a lot of different things that you want to learn at the beginning. And unfortunately, for a lot of the people who start, they're out of the business within just a couple, 3 years, because it's not for them.
Wow. What are some of the things that...
Well, it's long hours. It's long hours. It's a lot of stress. You're constantly under deadline. You're going to deal potentially with situations where you're finding people in the worst day of their life. You're out there at a scene where someone has, unfortunately, there's been a bad situation, police are out there, and you're going to encounter people who are on the worst day of their life. If they take it out on the police, they'll be arrested. If they take it out on each other, they could be arrested or something may happen. I mean, you understand, you try to be empathetic. And a lot of times we could be targets potentially because they're wanting to vent.
Right.
You know, if you can't handle that, if you're not someone who cares, who can be sympathetic or empathetic or whatever it may be, and try to understand these are people and it's not just a story, you could put yourself in a lot of danger, and it's a stressful situation.
I don't think that a lot of people fully appreciate that.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving us that perspective.
Sure.
You know, we've got about a minute before we're going to go to break.
Okay.
And I want to kind of go back to the internship piece, just to give those who are interested in this area, this field of broadcast journalism, an idea of what might be some of those possible internships. What might they involve?
Well, they involve, depending on if you want to do broadcast journalism, you can do it at a local television station. They offer internships. You could go to the network level and try CNN or Fox News. And they do have those, they actually have programs for interns. And so you can go and take advantage of that. For me, I felt at the time, and I'm not sure where I got it from, maybe my parents said something to me, maybe I heard someone else, but I said that I wanted to do everything. I wanted to learn how to do everything. I wanted to, you know, edit the videotape. I wanted to write. I wanted to shoot with the camera. I wanted to direct. I wanted to do everything that I could to sort of meld it all together and then spread it out from there and figure out what I wanted to do, because at that time I didn't know it would be news. I didn't know it would be, you know, like working for a television station news. So yeah, I think you need to try to get a taste of everything, and don't be afraid of the hours. I mean, don't just think you're going to go in there for a couple hours. You got to soak it in and ask questions, and you know, especially the people who've been doing it a while, try to pick their brain and figure out what works for them. I mean, my first job at that station, I did everything. My second job was as a photographer, a videographer, and I went and I worked with reporters. I was the guy, and I learned their styles, and then eventually I said, you know what, I'm going to take what I've learned from each of them and mold it into what I want to do. What I think I can do, what I can bring to the table. And you could do that with an internship, you know, and don't expect to get paid. Don't expect to get paid. You're getting paid for the time. You're also getting paid for the experience, and that's invaluable. You can get a few bucks, but you'd rather have the experience, which will build the foundation.
Yeah. Well, we'll be right back. Thank you for watching Your Career. We'll be right back.
With each new day comes a renewed call to greatness. At Eastern Florida State College, we are rising to lead the way and build our better future now. With a unique group of emerging leaders who are striving here today to impact our global tomorrow. This is where new voices are heard and new dreams ascend. where vision is shared, ideas are exchanged, and careers take flight. This is where heart and dedication ensure a mutual resolve that rises to meet new challenges. This is where compassionate commitment creates higher achievement, and bold steps lead to bright discoveries. Eastern Florida, where titans rise.
Welcome back. You're watching Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today is Greg Pallone. And Greg is, well, I was going to call you an anchor of News 13, but you have a much different role that's more interesting and fun.
Well, anchoring is fun too. I did that for a while because I have coworkers who are anchors, and I'm proud of them, and they do a great job. For me, I'm kind of a field guy. I like to be out in the field, I like to be out and about. And so Brevard County for me is kind of like a fertile ground for stories, and it's exciting to be out here with everything that's happening, has happened and is happening with the space program, and lots of just different people to meet and community. So yeah, it's a great place, and I'm happy that News 13 entrusts me to cover this area, because it's a very important for our station. Yeah,
well, it's very important for our community to have that kind of coverage, quite honestly.
You know, I've said this before, but the first three letters of the word news is new, N-E-W. And the way deadlines are nowadays, it's almost 5 minutes ago. Things are so fast-paced. And so people expect that. They expect it, they want it quick, and they want to be able to encapsulate the day if they worked all day, and so it's up to us to provide that too, but also do it in a very responsible and accurate way too. Don't try to throw things out there that aren't true, and just present the facts and let people decide for themselves.
Just listening to you, it sounds like to me that we're really looking for somebody with some characteristics like you know, quick-paced, agile, flexible, you know, somebody that can really adapt in the moment.
Adaptable is a very important word. You have to be able to adapt, because you might have an assignment in the morning, then before you know it, you're out on something that's breaking. You might be out, there's a bad wreck on the interstate, or something is going on. You have to be able to adapt. And you also have to be able to kind of multitask too, because as you're doing one thing, other things are going on. You might be making a phone call to the police to get information. At the same time, you're trying to figure out where we need to go for this and this and that, all types of things that are going in together. And so if you're not able to multitask and to budget your time is critical, because you have those deadlines and you have certain things. If you're not able to budget your time, especially too when you're putting your stories together, because we're only given a finite amount of time for our story's length. Much like a column in a newspaper, you know, you might have the smaller column or the larger one, you know, words. You have to be able to budget that as well in your head. And that's what you learn. That's where your internship, if you go to a good school, the broadcast journalism program, and then you go in an internship, and then you're able to pick the people's brains who have been doing it for a while and find out how they do it, and then find your rhythm, the way you would do it, your process, because everyone is different, but the ultimate goal is to still get on the air and make sure it's right.
Right, excellent. Well, I think that that's very helpful for a person to have that kind of foresight and understanding of, you know, what do you need? Maybe it's not my personality to manage multiple things at one time. Curious, I'm assuming, but to avoid the assumption, I'm going to ask you directly, what role have you seen technology play in your role?
It's changed everything. Absolutely changed everything. If you talk to anyone who's been in the broadcast journalism or broadcast industry as far as news for any amount of time, things change almost every year. You know, I've been doing this now 21 years, and back then you get a camera, you have a big tape, you have a tape deck, you have this cord that hooks to it, and you run around with the equipment. And then you have, of course, a live truck, and you raise the mast in the air, you get the signal back to the station, you go live. You feed it back. You have to feed it back through the truck. Now we don't do that anymore. We don't have to. Technology has, and you better learn too, or you're going to be out of the business. Now we have, you know, different ways of transferring our video via the air card or the internet or whatever. I mean, if we're able to get our stories back in a significantly drastically reduced amount of time. It's incredible how things have changed. It's made it easier too.
Wow.
I tell the thing to the kids that we used to, let's say we're doing a crime story and we needed a mugshot of the person who's accused of the crime. We used to have to drive down to the jail, wherever that was. They'd print it out for us. We'd use some tape. We'd tape it to the wall. We'd get our camera and we'd get video of the mugshot, and then we'd take it back, and then we'd put it all together in the story, tape to tape. Now it's sent via email.
Wow.
It's online. Everything is online. So things have gotten so instantaneous. It's incredible. I mean, we're able to do our job much more efficiently. We don't have to drive as far to do things. I myself, our main station is in Orlando. Right. That's 70 miles away from where we are right now, roughly. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to drive back to the station. We can be out and about and be able to do our stories from there. And it's incredible to be able to do that and show people what's going on right when it's happening.
Right.
Like that.
Well, Greg, it sounds like that the technology has really had a tremendous impact on your career and others in broadcasting.
It's everything. I mean, it's everything. Technology has changed the face of news. If you think about back when 24-hour news started, they laughed at them. They said, really? You're going to try 24-hour news? Well, look at it. Here we are today. Social media is 24-hour news. That's basically what it is. We have a kind of a mandate of what we do. We're a 24-hour station, but we also have a mandate that what we put on the air needs to also be on the website. It needs to be on the web because people check the web. It's even a formula. Web equals air. It's the same thing. I mean, we are responsible for making sure our content gets online because people go to the internet. They just do, and the first thing they do on their phone, and everything is so mobile. That right there is your key to the world. No matter what you do, but in the news business, people get text alerts. They want to find out if there's a wreck on the interstate they have to avoid. We use social media because it's a resource to get to people because they're already on it. So my daily habits of waking up, getting my day started have drastically changed in the last several years. I used to get up and maybe check out what's going on and flip on the morning news. People still do that. My first thing right here on this phone, I check Twitter because it's a resource. It's a resource to find out little snippets of what's going on, what's happening, what's happened overnight, and then maybe what we need to follow up on. Of course, other things get generated throughout the day, but social media has the landscape has just blown up, and it's as important. It's as important to what we do, because people turn to it. They turn to that type of thing, and if you're not on that bandwagon, you're going to fall off, and people are not going to do the regular traditional things of watching your newscasts. I mean, so it's all encompassing. I remember when the internet first got big in the I guess the early 2000s. I mean, they might put up a web story or two. Everything goes on the web now as much as possible, as much content, and we file those reports as well. I mean, those are our daily things. We do extra things. We show you those. So it's very important and the advantage that, I hate to say this, I sound old, the kids have as they're getting out of college now is they're familiar with it.
Right.
I wasn't familiar with it when when the first iPhone came out in 2008. They handed this phone. They said, "Here's what you're going to use." I had to learn. Now the kids already know these type of things. They know it. Problem is, you still want to get that foundation of journalism, ethics, and all that. You still want to build that base, but you can use the technology to be able to do even better stories with more content to provide that. That's why we send people to our website. And we can't put it all on the air. Send them to the website and they can read it at their leisure and get that information, get some extra links to go to whatever the story is. It's incredible how things have changed over the last just few years with that.
What's your thought or sense of where the industry may be in the next 5 to 10 years, given all the things that we're seeing now with technology and social media?
Yeah, it's tough to predict. I mean, people talk about, maybe not even watching television in 10 years. They'll just watch it on their computer. I mean, I find myself doing that, watch the ball game or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that the concept of news will always be there. I mean, you look at these movies that are set in the future, the news is still there. It's in your face, coming at you like a hologram. Who knows if that will happen? People still want to know what's going on, but the one thing that I think will never die is local news. I'm not as concerned as what's going on over in Tampa or Jacksonville or wherever. I mean, sure, it's important if you read about it. You want to know what's going on in your neighborhood. You want to know what's going on in your city, and that's why local news is key. And people, they've almost got, you've heard of the inverted pyramid.
Right.
People got away from it. They kind of got away from it, but now it's local news, not to say it made a comeback, but in a lot of ways, that's what people want to know about. They want to know what's happening next door. They want to, if they see something down the street, they want to find out what's going on. And that's our responsibility. And I don't think local news is going anywhere anytime fast. That in itself. As to how you're going to get it, do you watch it on the computer? Do you watch it on your wall? Do you put your dog over here and shoot your projector? And who knows? I mean, how they might do it. Someone will come up with something else. But the concept of that, I don't think that's going anywhere at any point.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your advice, for the guidance. We could spend probably another half an hour. You
don't want to?
Wealth of information. I want to, but I tell you, this has just really been interesting and very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And so, with that, I'm going to say again, thank you again, and hope to have you back at some point in the
Wonderful.
future.
Enjoyed it. Thank you, Deb.
On behalf of my guest and everyone here on the set at Your Career, thank you for watching, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org.